All right, Michael, thanks for doing this. You start by telling me what problem do you solve for a company?
So I specialize in helping early stage startups scale from 100K to a million in revenue by building up customer pipelines and solidifying high value partnerships. Given my most recent business development experience, building up a pre-product revenue pipeline of roughly 350 million.
Wow. Okay, can you give me like an example, a tangible example of a project you've done in this niche in the past?
Yeah, certainly. So I my first client was actually working with a food tech company that was launching a new product and wanted me to come in and do a full sales cycle audit um, to really understand the entire life cycle of the new product to see if it was going to be viable for them in the future. So that's a little bit of a quick example of sort of business development strategy that I was helping him build out. As far as the sort of partnership side, I've helped some clients build out a full competitive landscape overview to help them really dive into who their competitors and potential partners are, what their companies look like, when they've raised capital, by who they've acquired, and sort of get a sense of who would be their best go-to-market partnerships and how they should best set themselves up for a positive go-to-market strategy.
It's amazing. And what would you say is the hardest part about your work?
I think the hardest part is switching from being a startup founder, where I would wear 100 hats in any given day, but it was mostly focused on one company. So the sort of diversity of problems and personalities and industries and things along those lines that consulting has sort of brought about. It's a little bit of a shift in thinking.
Right, love it. Okay, and what made you get into consulting and leave your full-time job?
So interestingly enough, it's still certainly a little rough, but we were about 2 weeks away from launching with our product, our first product in market. My most previous startup in the food tech space had been working on that full time, 60, 80-hour weeks for roughly 2 years. We were right on the cusp of launching with our first partner, a partnership I set up and still to this moment think was the absolute sort of golden ticket, a real pristine go-to-market partnership there. And one of our co-founders had a bit of an issue and created an internal issue, and we unfortunately had to pause, and it imploded the company. So in the sort of wake of that, I started to just talk with some of my previous customers and some people within my network, just to either let them know that we had to press pause on the customer side and just sort of seek out other professionals in the startup space to just have conversations about this, and realize that a lot of these people could utilize my services. So the CEO and myself were part of a really good network on WhatsApp, a big group of people in the food tech space, and my CEO basically just set me up in that and reached out to everyone at once and said, "Hey, my head of biz dev is sort of available. He's filled up our pipeline to the brim, and I'm would be happy to sort of farm him out." So that was how I got my first client. It was quite nice. It was simple in that sense that I didn't really have to do much work, but I guess building that sort of persona in the industry took about 2 years. So a little bit of back end work, but it did feel sort of serendipitous and very quick to get that first client.
Right. That must be tough. So how are you finding new clients today?
It's still a lot of working with my previous network. I've been the sort of face of my companies for the last decade. So I've gone to hundreds, if not thousands, of events. I continue to go to events over webinars and things like that, and just sort of network and meet new people and reach back out to people that have that are creating companies or are part of companies that I find interesting. So a little bit of digging through my network, but thus far it's really been sort of just word of mouth, which has been quite a godsend.
Amazing that it works. And what how are you like, what steps do you take to prevent burning out?
It's been a little bit sort of difficult to decipher where the burnout is coming from, because I think there's still a little bit from the startup realm, but I'll tell you, it's going from 80-hour work weeks down to 15 or 20 is prevention enough for me at this point. Certainly a very big shift in time availability. So I think that's been nice, being able to take some steps back and go for longer walks or listen to longer podcasts or watch an extra episode of TV, spend some extra time with friends or family. That's really been a strong positive.
It's amazing. And so you said 15 to 20 hours a week. Is that the amount of time you're devoting to consulting right now?
Yeah, it depends on the week. So I had a sort of cycle end pretty recently that lowered the hours. The projects from a handful of clients came to a close or conclusion. So that dropped the hours a little bit, but I do have a handful of clients that are sort of just however many hours I can dedicate in a week. And a lot of that is working on building partnerships. So it's more just initial conversations or introductions, things like that.
Okay. And so how do you use these extra hours that you have? You mentioned you watch an extra episode of TV, go for walks. What else do you do outside of work?
So I do spend a lot of that time reading, whether that be nonfiction or fiction or newsletters, things from Sahil Bloom and Sam Parr and people along those lines. I continue sort of exploring new industries that I don't necessarily have work in. I've gotten really fascinated with the nuclear industry lately. So I've been diving deep into that and talking to a few companies, learning about the sort of landscape there. Aside from work, I love playing tennis and going and skiing. I spent about 7 years in Colorado, so some world-class skiing an hour away. I do some rock climbing as well, and love to, especially nowadays, love to go grab some pumpkin beer with friends.
This is amazing what you just said. Like, there are so many questions that I want to follow up with, but as I promised, I will not be asking follow-up questions. I'll reserve that for the AMA in our Slack.
Fantastic. Any other questions from you?
No, that's all. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I'm certainly open to any additional questions from you or anyone else in the community tomorrow.